Okay, today we're going to work on polynomial long division, and this just looks a little bit blurry, so let me see if I can focus that. So we're going to do polynomial long division, but at the top here, I just wanted to see if you guys remembered how to do regular long division, because the process is extremely similar. So let me just look at my very first question here. I'm literally just long division, 4 into 618. So if you haven't done this in a while, you want to take and see the very first digit, which is just a 6, and you're going to say, okay, how many times does 4 go into 6? And that happens 1 time, so that goes across the top. And then you take 1 times this number outside, so 1 times 4, that goes in the space underneath the x, and then you subtract. So 6 minus 4 is 2. Then we're going to bring down the next digit in the number and repeat that process. So how many times does 4 go into 21? And we would say 5 here. And so 5 times 4 is going to give me 20. And again, you subtract, and then you bring down that next lovely number, which is the 8. Repeat that one more time. So 4 into 18 is going to go 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. And if I subtract, there is 2. So the remainder is going to be 2. So how many times does 4 go into 618? 154 times, with a remainder of 2. Okay, and then just to show you really quickly, I might just leave my answer like that. Another way to write the answer is 154 plus the remainder over what you were dividing in, which here would be 154 plus a half, or if you want to just write that 154.5 or 1/2. Now it's going to look a little bit different with polynomials, but like I said, I'm fine with just writing remainder too, but another way to write the answer is to take whatever you get on the top plus your remainder over what you were dividing in. Okay, so just going to repeat that one more time. Now if you have a 2-digit number, like 21 doesn't go into 6, so how many times does 21 go into 67? So 21 goes into 67, let's see, 3 times. So 3 times 21 is going to give me 63. Subtract here, this is going to give me 4. Bring down the next digit, this is 2. 21 divides into 42 evenly, so this is going to go in twice. 2 times 21 is 42, and then when I subtract, I don't get a remainder, so my answer there would just be the 32. Okay, now how does this work with polynomials? It's a similar process, but it's a little bit weirder because we've got variables, right? Okay, so doesn't matter what is in here. Sorry, let me scooch that to the side just a little bit. You are going to divide x minus 5 into the polynomial that you've got underneath the division symbol there. Okay, and you are just going to look at the x, kind of like a digit, and you're going to say, okay, what would I need to multiply x by to get x squared? So what would I need to multiply x by to get x squared? Okay, so hopefully you are saying, well, I would have to multiply by x, right? X times x will give me the x squared. Now, when you do this, if you remember the process from long division, you take what's on top and you multiply it by what's outside here. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to multiply it by both of these terms though. X times x is x squared, and x times this negative 5 would be negative 5x, and I'm just lining those up. And if you remember from the top part, the subtraction between each of the steps that you do in long division with numbers, we're going to do that with polynomials too. Now this can be kind of tricky. So if I do x squared, this is minus x squared, so this should cancel. That first term should cancel. The second term is the part that's a little tricky. This is 2 minus a negative 5 here. So 2 minus a negative 5. So I'm actually going to add 5, and this would become 7x if I subtracted those two. And then to keep going with the process, like you bring down the next digit, when you've got a polynomial, you're going to bring down the next term. So this would be 7x minus 30. Okay, now I'm going to repeat that process. Okay, so I'm just looking at the very first term and I'm looking at the very first term on the outside. So I say, okay, what do I do to x to turn it into 7x? What do I multiply it by? And that's just going to be 7. Now, I'm going to multiply here 7 times both terms on the outside. So 7 times x is 7x, which should match up. All right, and then 7 times -5 is -35. And then again, you're subtracting both of these terms. These should cancel, 7x minus 7x. Now, this is -30 minus a -35. So it's really -30 plus 35. So this will be 5. Okay, now from here, x does not divide into 5. So that is going to be my remainder. All right, now, okay, so I can write the answer, x plus 7 with a remainder of 5, or like I was showing you at the top, another way to write that is to take my remainder, so plus 5 over, and then whatever you were dividing in. So those are two different ways to write your answer. Okay, so we're going to try another one here. All right, so this one, I'm going to look at that first term, which is 2x cubed in the polynomial under the division sign, and I'm going to look at the 2x that's out in front, not the 3. Okay, so the 3 is not involved except when you do the process when you multiply. So say to yourself, okay, what do I do to 2x? What do I multiply 2x by to get 2x to the third? So the 2's already match. I just got to get from x to the third. So to do that, we're going to go x squared. Okay. X squared then gets multiplied by both terms on the outside there. So x squared times 2x, 2x to the third, which it should match up. X squared times 3 is going to make this 3x squared. And then just remember, for your process of long division, you're just subtracting. All right, so this is gone. And just be careful with that second term. This is -9 minus a positive 3. So -9 minus 3 is going to be -12x squared. And then just like you'd bring down the next digit for a number, we're going to bring down a next term for a polynomial. Okay, now you just kind of ignore that for a second. You're going to look at the first term, which is 2x on the outside there, and you're going to look at -12x squared. I got to know, what do I multiply 2x by to get -12x squared? So it's got to be negative. To get from 2 to 12, it's got to be 6 that I would multiply by. And to get from x to x squared, we need an x. Okay? So then I take, this is -6x. I'm going to take that times both of these terms out here. So -6x times 2x, -12x squared. That should always match up. -6x times 3 is -18x. And then part of long division, we're always subtracting for each step here. So -12 minus a -12 is really -12 plus 12. That's why that cancels. -12x minus a negative again. So -12 minus a negative. This is -12 plus 18x. So this will be 6x. And then I do have one more term. So I'm going to bring down the 9. And for my last, this will be the last step here. How many times does 2x go into 6x? Or what would I need to multiply 2x by to get 6x? And that's just going to be a plain 3. Now, 3 times 2x is going to give me 6x. And then 3 times 3 actually gives me 9. So subtracting both of these here, 6 minus 6 is 0. 9 minus 9 is also 0. So there's no remainder here. Okay, now my actual answer, x squared minus 6x plus 3, this is my answer. Now, what does this mean? Just to tell you guys real quick, it means 2x plus 3 times that answer that we just got is equal to that polynomial that was under the division symbol, the 2x cubed minus 9x squared minus 12x plus 9. Now, of course, you don't have to write that out, but that is what that means. This times this is going to be what's underneath there. Okay, now on the back, a lot of times you're going to see a question that'll give you a polynomial and say determine if such and such is a factor, okay? So what that means for this problem here, it just says determine if x plus 4 is a factor of the following polynomial. So what it means is I want to divide whatever they're asking for, the x plus 4 here, into the polynomial. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this up. We're going to divide x plus 4 into x squared plus 6x plus 8, and then we'll talk about how do I know if that's a factor. Okay, so I'm just going to look at the x squared for a second, and I'm going to look at the x out in front. So what would I need to multiply x by to get x squared? So that's just going to be an x. So just doing that long division process. So x times x give you x squared, x times 4 give you 4x. Subtract between each of these steps for your division. So this is going to be 6 minus 4, which is going to be 2x. Bring down your next term, which is going to be the 8. Okay, you're only looking at the first term to start this out. What would you multiply x by to get 2x? And so that's going to be 2. All right, now 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. And if I subtract here, my remainder is 0. Okay, so the question is this a factor? And so my answer here would be yes. I don't have a remainder, so it divides in evenly. If it divides in evenly, then it's going to be a factor. Okay, let's try one more here. So x plus 4, we're still determining this, if this is a factor. It just gives us a different polynomial to test out here. And I'm going to grab my highlighters on this just real quick, and I'm just going to highlight instead of trying to cover these numbers up. Okay, so I'm going to start out, I'm going to say, okay, what do I need to do to x to get x cubed? So I would need to multiply that by x squared to make that happen. So then I'm going to do x squared times x cubed, x squared times 4, 4x squared, and we're going to subtract always. Now, 3 minus 4 is going to be a negative x squared, because I got a positive 3, this will be a minus 4. Bring down your next term. Okay, now we're only focusing on that very first term there. So what do I need to multiply x by to get negative x squared? So I need a negative, and I need another x to multiply to get that. So negative x times x is negative x squared. Negative x times the 4 is negative 4x. Okay, negative 6 minus a negative 4 is really negative 6 plus 4, which will be negative 2x. And you might be able to tell right now, we're answering the question, is this a factor? This one's not going to be a factor. If you don't notice that, that's okay. What I'm going to do is just continue the process here. And so I'm going to say, okay, what do I need to multiply x by to get negative 2x? That's just going to be a negative 2. If I multiply that back, I'm going to get negative 2x, and then I'm going to get negative 8. If I subtract here, you guys can see these don't match up. I'm going to get 1 as my remainder. So the actual answer here would be the x squared minus x, whoa, I just took off the screen, sorry, minus 2, with this would be my remainder here. If you want to write that, I could put x squared minus x minus 2, and then 1 over x plus 4 is how I can write the remainder, since it doesn't go in evenly. And ultimately, my answer to this question is no, it's not a factor if you have a remainder. If there's any remainder, it's not a factor because it divides in evenly. If you have no remainder, like we did on the previous question, then our answer would be yes, because that is a factor. Okay, now on the bottom here, I just have a couple special cases and just kind of a little recommendation for you if you're doing long division. If you are missing a power of x, that's what this says right here. We're still doing long division, but it says with a missing power of x. Here is just a little recommendation to maybe make the problem a little bit easier. And when I say missing power of x, I mean I go from x to the 4th, and then I have an x squared, so there's no x cubed. I go from an x squared to a plain number, negative 10. There's no plain x. So here's my recommendation to you. And sometimes this is helpful and sometimes it's not. It just kind of depends on the problem. So here, x to the fourth, I'm going to write in place here that I have 0x cubed. I don't have any x cubed. That's really like me adding 0, but this is helpful sometimes when you're doing the process of long division for the place value. Then I'm just going to go ahead and write that negative 3x squared they had. I don't have a term with an x, so I'm going to write 0x, and then I'm going to put that negative 10. And I wrote too big, so I bled into the space for the next question. So we'll try and scooch this up a little bit. So hopefully we have plenty of room. Okay, so I'm going to start the process, and I'm just going to use my highlighter again here and see if that helps a little bit. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to say, okay, what am I going to multiply x by to get x to the fourth? And I want to grab a different color to do this than what I have in my hand. Let me just grab my pencil. Okay, so I need to multiply this by x cubed to do that. All right, so x cubed times x gives me x to the fourth. X cubed times that negative 2 is negative 2x cubed. And here is a really good example of why that might have been helpful to put that 0x squared, because what's happening there is I'm going to end up having a place to actually do the subtraction. So if we do x to the fourth minus x to the fourth, that goes 0x cubed minus a negative 2x cubed is actually going to be plus 2x cubed, so that'll be 2x cubed. And I'll go ahead and bring down the next term, which is negative 3x squared. We're just going to repeat the process, okay? I got to figure out what to multiply x by to get 2x to the third. I'm going to go back over this with my marker real quick so it looks the same. Okay, now, to do that, I got to have 2x squared. Multiply that, we're going to get 2x cubed, and 2x squared times negative 2x is going to be negative 4x squared. We're going to subtract here. Now, this is negative 3 minus a negative 4, so this actually becomes x squared. And then just to, hopefully it'll help us here have that place value, I'm just going to bring down that 0x. Okay, now, x into x squared, we're just going to need to multiply by x to do that, so plus x here. X times x gives you x squared, x times that negative 2, negative 2x, we are subtracting. Okay, so gone. 0 minus a negative 2, this is 2x, and I'm going to bring down that negative 10. Okay, now this will be our last step here. So x into 2x is just going to need to be multiplied by a 2. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, now in this situation, I'm going to get negative 6 as my remainder, and it's totally fine to get a remainder that's negative, so remainder here. And I'm just going to jot this down on the paper. So my answer would be that x cubed plus 2x squared plus x plus 2 with a remainder of negative 6, or in this case, because it's negative, what we would do to write our remainder, we would subtract 6 over the x minus 2, which is what we were dividing in. So this is how you want to write it. Okay, and I just have one last one to practice with here. So again, if you're missing a power of x, this one is just missing an x squared, I would just recommend filling that missing spot in. So I'm going to try to show you guys the last problem here to the side so you can see it. And then I'm going to rewrite this guy here. So I'm going to write x plus 8, and I'm going to write x to the fourth plus 8x cubed. And then I don't have an x squared, so I'm going to add that in as a 0x squared. Minus 2x and minus 23. Okay, just going to grab a different color here. And we're going to start out with x into x to the fourth. Okay, to do that, we're going to do x cubed. X cubed times x. X to the fourth, x cubed times 8 is 8x cubed. Now, in this question, this is gone and this is gone. Okay, now I could bring down that 0x cubed, but then I would say, okay, to get 0x cubed, I'd just multiply by 0. So in this case, I don't really need that to hold the place value because I'm not going to need that because that ended up canceling both of these terms. So you just move down the polynomial, and I'm going to write negative 2x, and I'll just go ahead and write the negative 23 because all that stuff canceled out. So really the next piece would be, what do I need to multiply x by to get negative 2x? This would just be negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. And again, this is going to cancel. Negative 23, this is going to end up minus a negative, so it's negative 23 plus 16, which is going to give you negative 7. Okay, so this is not a factor, obviously, because I have a remainder. This one or the question we just did, so this is my remainder. So my answer here would be x cubed minus 2, and then since the remainder is negative, it's minus 7 over x plus 8, which is what we were dividing in. And so this is our answer for the question here. So sometimes it's helpful, like this question, if you're missing a power of x, to just replace that missing power with 0x to whatever power you're missing. Sometimes, like the question we just looked at, it doesn't make a difference because the terms canceled out. So just a little trick to use if you're missing a power of x, just to help.